spent here, it has given such tremendous joy to see the quality of infrastructure coming up, to interact with the students, and to see all kinds of initiatives. Just the effort to get people like McKinsey or a lot of alumni involved in doing a vision is excellent. I personally think that there are two things missing in the vision. One is, we are talking about numbers, funds, everything. I don't see any input on marketing.
Yes.
I think you need to market your institute. Market, why? Because now you're going to 15 IITs. Even when there were 7 IITs, you should have been attracting on average, let's say 16-17% of the top rankers. Were you? I don't know. Same thing, all the IITs are competing for the same pool when it comes to the faculty. Were you attracting 16-17% of the eligible faculty to your place? May not be. Now you're going to compete with 14 other IITs. It is not, if you become the preferred destination by marketing yourself well and finding out what are the niche places by which you score over other IITs which are better placed geographically, and if you use and many others, there are hundreds available, including people like him, who are experts in marketing, who can help you create an image over a 5 or a 10-year period, so that, why 10%? If you were to start attracting 40% of the top 100 ranks, or 400 people in the top 1,000 ranks, and similarly in the faculty, think of what it would do to the quality of your people. So I think marketing of the institute in the appropriate manner has to be given prime importance. Secondly, I feel that too much is being made out of government restrictions. Can't we find some way to overcome that? The collective clout that the IIT alumni has, is it that difficult to approach the powers that be, including going up to the Prime Minister if required, to make a presentation and get some of these rules changed for an institute like IIT? I don't think it's that difficult if we really address it and attract the right kind of faculty to approach it. You get people like Narayan Murthy or people like Dr. C.N.R. Rao, people of that stature. 10 of those people, they can get an appointment with the Prime Minister within a week if required. And if they can put their point across well, I think some of these rules can be changed very easily.
Once they have some views.
Because so far, we have been trying. It's not that we have not been trying, but it has not worked as of now. So, of course, I don't fully understand what are all the issues here, but I only know the fact that we have been trying and so far nothing has worked.
See, one thing could be done in this, the negotiation with the government could be that, look, what is this minimum that you want from us? 2,000 students or 3,000 students, something like that. And that parameter, that box, will be at the control of the government. Beyond that box, if I increase my capacity by 1,000 students or 500 students, or if I do this will not be within the control of the government. And here I will be able to do the free pricing.
Well, let me also add that quite possibly with the Kapoor Committee report which has been submitted and actually has been accepted by the government, maybe procedurally also this thing will happen soon, that government will let go of the control. So there are signs that
the IITs were created by Act of Parliament.
Yeah.
So unless and until the Parliament...
The Act will have to change.
Yeah, that Act has to be changed and passed in the Parliament. That only it can happen.
Only that.
Because otherwise the Prime Minister on his own cannot do it.
Cannot change it, but it has changed. But let me, can I make a suggestion?
Just wanted to add the marketing piece there. Your marketing to the faculty, marketing to the students.
Yeah.
You also, you need industrial funds.
Yes.
And marketing.
On our campus. Of course, Manindra has given a comprehensive view of the size and activities within the institute. We have 13 academic departments, 8 are in engineering, 3 sciences, mainly physics, chemistry and mathematics, 1 management, humanities, We have a new department on biological sciences and bioengineering. Materials and metallurgy, some of you might be in that department. It's now renamed Material Science. We have several interdisciplinary programs. Basic technology, which is now to be called Photonics Science and Engineering. It's a nuclear engineering program, material science program, design and environmental engineering. So all these programs, the academic departments are for BTechs, BTech, MTech, PhD, and now BS is also being offered. IDPs mainly offer masters and PhD. So one may say that the IDPs are the real centers for futuristic research. So apart from the academic programs, we have research centers. These centers have faculty from across the institute, various departments, all working together. There is no degree program supported by the research centers. They carry out the projects. The first one, Sample Center, has a collaboration with the industry, sample companies. And now we are diversifying into solar energy. The Center for Environmental Science and Engineering. Nanosciences, nanotechnology is a major initiative on mechatronics. Securities.
What's mechatronics?
Mechatronics is essentially robotics, a new name for this mechanical plus electronics. That is mechatronics. It is robotics. So display technology is like making screens for computers, mobiles, monitors. Sample is the name of a private company. They gave us some money to start this center. Now, display uses electricity and produces light. Just reversing that logic, you could use light and produce electricity, so that group is now getting into solar energy.
This nanotechnology or nanosciences, what you are saying, that the Department of Science and Technology sponsored. This is with a focus or it's just a basic science? What research are we talking about? Is it focused on some particular area, like focused on something?
The technology part is focused on printable electronics. Printable, that is their focus area. Like circuit boards rather than building them by conventional techniques. So we want to have a printer, 3D printer. Directly print on soft substrate. That is nanotechnology. Nanosciences deals with material behavior and nanoscience. That is the science.
But supposing you, for the nanotechnology, supposing you generate some IP out of it, so will IITK own that, own the IP?
Yes.
You own that.
DST is very generous in handing over IP to IITs. So they don't claim anything. All the IP belongs to us.
All the IP belongs to us.
And the participating family. And the students also. DST is our equivalent of NSF. Funding is liberal and they hand over all the IPs to us. And the rules and regulations are a lot of concern, but DST rules and regulations are very comfortable and relaxed. This NHRD funding is the core Ministry of Human Resources funding, which is the core funding that we have. That is very important.
Sorry, what about the last one? What's the security center?
It's the computer science related activity. Cryptography is the encryption algorithms and they do a lot of work. In fact, Mahindra himself works in that area. They develop algorithms and technologies for defense. is a major source of funding, but we also have very active collaborations going on. In India, space, nuclear and defense. These are very major research establishments. And our institute has very deep ties with all these. Department of Space has several research labs. ISRO, BSSC, SAC, these are SAC Satellite Application Center, for example. The Jugu project that was mentioned, done by students, was in collaboration with SAC, and then they are the ones who took this prototype and put it on the satellite. That was launched, and it is still there, and the signals are being received. They are being received several ground stations, one of the ground stations on campus. DRDO is a defense research lab, and the Department of Atomic Energy. So all three, we have very deep connection with all the major establishments. We have developed technologies for service providers like Indian Railways. One of them is called Simran, which is meant to improve safety in Indian Railways. So what it does is it has GPS units. So the position of all the trains is known centrally. So there are centers where these trains are tracked. And if by chance there are two trains on the same track, then an alarm is So that technology was developed at this institute. Similarly, there is a biofuels initiative. Indian Railways is planning on using biofuels in their engines. They are also planning to use new types of ignition systems. These have all been developed at this institute. BSNL is telephone communications, but now it has gone into mobile communications. Many applications that are of social relevance have been developed within our institute. So one of them is the digital mandi, which will give the farmer all the market rates of the produce. The person will have information. So this whole idea is to have information at the fingertips.
Slightly lighter side. Once you enter the guest house on the left hand side, there is a screen. This is a part of the Simran implementation, so you can see the position of the trains.
Yeah, you can see the position of trains in the guest house, of important trains in the guest house. That is based on the technology developed by the institute. It has been accepted by Indian Railways now. They are planning on commercializing. Similarly, not here, but you might see GPS clocks. Those clocks, they auto-correct themselves. That means in case there is a power failure and the whole thing comes back, it will correct itself.
There is one behind you.
This is not.
This is not.
This is not that. But there is one outside. Yeah, but it's there in the guest house also. Those are GPS powered clocks. So, speaking of the lighter side, the student now does not have an excuse saying that the clock in the hostel is different from the clock in the lecture hall complex. They're all synchronized. I have to be in the class.
He bunks the class anyway.
We have several new, these are 3-4 years old. The institute has gone international, very big way. These are some companies that have projects with us. The big ones are Boeing and Chevron. Others are also significant.
I see IBM missing, so we need to know why is that.
Yeah, IBM has visited the institute many times.
It's visiting right now.
Oh.
I think we got
It's
to
probably
keep
takes
further questions.
Recently, Chevron has purchased major chemical distillation process, developed, it's called the high G process. So where the reactor is spun as at a very, very high speed. It's called high G, providing very high levels of acceleration. That technology of separation was developed at this institute and has been purchased by Chevron US. They have installed several prototypes. So the summary of several facilities that we call them national facilities in the sense that outsiders can come and use it at a nominal cost. So these are services we provide. One of them is, the first is ion beam complex, like focused ion beam used in manufacturing. Essentially in the nanotechnology, microengineering and nanotechnology. NWTF is National Wind Tunnel Facility that photograph, not very clear, photograph shows NWTF where you can put in a test section, you can put an automobile and find the aerodynamic resistance offered by the automobile. A huge amount of space-related experiments are all carried out in WTF. Recently, Boeing has said that it wants to create a test section for itself in this facility. So those discussions are going on. There are many more. This low temperature lab produces liquid, not only liquid nitrogen, but liquid helium also, which is one of a kind. We provide this liquid helium to neighboring institutes as well as many defense labs. They come to us for buying liquid helium at a nominal cost. We are encouraging students to do their own thing, so to speak. First one is several batches of students have worked on developing an autonomous vehicle. The earlier versions, the vehicle could do a few things like going around obstacles. But now it does a lot more. Built imaging. There is one that has been made for lunar terrain. It's called a lunar rover. So it can go extremely rough terrains. There is a student organization called Power that takes on projects straight with the industry. The institute provides the infrastructure for managing money on one hand and then providing space and all the support services like telephone, email, etc. for this group. There is a student group called NERD. Acronyms. NERD is for Notes on Engineering, Research and Development. It's a research publication that comes out 4 times every year. It's entirely managed by students. There are no faculty written articles. All the articles are written by students. They say they express their thoughts. And some students, after doing this, have gone into science journalism, as well as popularization of science. So they also go around to nearby colleges, nearby places, hold lecture demonstrations in various topics. So These are all supported by the institute. Whatever little help is required monetarily as well as otherwise is provided by the institute, and students have the opportunity of working on in all these areas. Neither has covered this instead of crores, billions, so it's a little more impressive. Now our weaknesses are this number 103 PhDs of last year is very small. The number of patents is small, but it's increasing. It used to be 0 just a few years ago. Now we have gone into IPR and patents. Several international patents have been filed. Research papers, we were always strong in publications, and those numbers are increasing. Again, the technologies actually sold was 0 for quite some time, but in recent years, 11 technologies have actually been sold at a certain cost. It has earned revenue.
Was it licensed or sold?
It's
I mean,
well, it
is
is
there a-
somewhere
is
in
there a-
between, because there will be, see, the company, there is upfront, there is some amount of money, and then there is some money due a little later, but then it stops.
So there's no recurring revenue.
So there is something that will come later in case there is a windfall for them. Otherwise, it's not perpetual. There is a huge hostel for project employees that is coming up, that is already being constructed, which is almost 300 students, project employees, those who work on projects, and are not students.
It's a research associate.
These are research associates hostel that is coming up. Really very high quality place to stay. And fresh project employees all the way to international scientists can be housed here. But the research complex is what Manindra spoke about. It's one more need that we have as far as the future is concerned. So that would be high premium stays for carrying out. It would be like a clean lab, variety of research projects could be pursued. Existing departments have limited space, and we also have to conduct curricular experiments. This research complex, that is just a photo of a research complex somewhere else. Cavendish lab. We want a Cavendish lab within our institute. It's one of the future things. Thank you. If you have any questions, you
I never thought
Within 2-3 years, it will start giving you 100 back. If you have got Amra.
Yes, my white hair is the fascination.
both on the verge of retiring in 4-5 months. What if
पेपर में पढ़ ली so they are just
You have to remember your name.
इसकी रतन चौधरी की डॉटर है यहाँ पे, वो she works in LA.
I saw him, I saw him. Because I was very bored. He called me 4 times a day. Office ध्यान.
Next question.
What I would like to ask you is, you all are industry experts. So, IIT Kanpur has also started an MBA program and it's a 10-year-old now. So, what according to you is the actual picture of this MBA program and how do you see it?
Well, I can only say that you end up competing with the IIMs at one level, but because all of you come in through an engineering reference point, the perspective of the industry is that the MBA programs which are run in the IITs are good for stuff like supply chain, the discussion we just had. And so when we hire the supply chain, we actually prefer to go to the NITIs and the MBA students in the IITs. The best known one is the one in Bombay and Kharagpur. Somehow the one in Kanpur is not as well known yet, but I'm guessing it's pretty close. It's a matter of time. That's it. So yeah, so that's what we go. We hire operations people from these campuses.
And also there are different names like IIT Bombay and IIT Kharagpur, they have separate names.
BT Home and
separate department.
Yeah, I know. I'm aware.
I have a follow-up question on that from Chan.
Yeah.
I imagine, I believe, I understand that MBA and IITK is for engineering students only. Is that correct? How does the industry look at such a program where the intake is only engineers, unlike IIMs where anybody can go in?
I think we answered that.
Like business. So,
Even at the IIMs, a very high percentage of the students do come from an engineering background. However, the few who come from a non-engineering background adds a lot to the diversity of the classroom. And what you learn in the classroom through discussions, when you are interacting, the person sitting next to you who has come from a background of psychology or philosophy, they add a totally different perspective to the whole discussion. And there is a lot to be learned from that diversity. That is what is slightly missing in MBA institutes at IIT Bombay or IIT Kanpur, where the student profile is a little more unique.
May I know what is the reason that you only the IITK only takes only engineering students for MBA?
That's the rule, right?
That's the rule.
Why the rule?
Actually, the vision was when the whole IIT started the MBA program, the vision was to produce technical managers.
Part of the body cannot be a full body. So if you have to learn the psychology and all that part of it, you got to put in that, as Hemant pointed out.
For that, sir, we have specialized courses like consumer behavior and all. But yes, I agree with you that discussion part, peer learning is not.
It's in a society. It's not there. It's in a society. If you take one part of the society and keep it away, both parts are suffering.
I have a suggestion.
Let's move on to a few other questions. We can take this offline.
This one is about Indigo Pet.
Sorry?
This one is about Indigo Pet. Could you describe your life story from 76?
Mike.
That's a very interesting question. Could you repeat it in the mic, please?
This is Manish, Duality School from Chemical Engineering, final year. My question is, I would like to know your life story from 1976 to present day.
You want to know my
Yes.
life history?
Yes.
I can tell something, he was baby of our batch.
Last year, what were you thinking? Before you graduated from Australia?
set me back thinking, you know. Okay, when I was graduating or in my final year out here, basically all I knew is that I wanted to do an MBA and I want to pursue a corporate life. I come from an entrepreneurial family. I'd seen my father as a small-scale entrepreneur all through his life, and you know, he would put money on the table, but you know, he had struggled all his life, and I felt that this is not the kind of life I want to lead. So I was enchanted with corporate life. So you know, I went on, I did my master's, and I did my MBA because it's interesting. You all know of Ratan Tata. I don't know how many of you are aware of his predecessor in this country. His pilot license grade 001. And the first Air India flight was flown by him. And it was a cargo flight or something. And he flew it solo from Karachi to Bombay. Now, in the year 1981, when I was just 1 year into corporate life, Air India was celebrating its silver jubilee or golden jubilee or golden jubilee, yeah. And I'm going to fly again solo from Karachi to Bombay. Now, the whole of Tata started keeping your position and your age in mind. You should not take risks like this. But he went ahead and did it. And when he landed at Mumbai airport, you know, of course, you know, I was in Bombay at that time. I was watching it, the whole thing on TV. The chief minister was there. I forget to do this. His response was that I did it for the youth of the country, to teach them that you people should get out of your comfort zone and not forget the spirit of adventure. And be willing to take risks in life and be willing to do things which are not necessarily comfortable and safe. That event and that statement was really a life-changing event for me, and I decided, what the hell am I doing? And I dumped all that. A year later, I came to join my father's business in Patna, set up various chemical industries, thought I was doing well. I had to sell my car, I had to sell everything. And then I went back into corporate life because I had no other option. And I worked in a very large company, Sterlite Group, called the Vedanta Group, as their CEO in a 1,000 crore copper smelter down in Tuticorin in Tamil Nadu. But after 3 years, I didn't feel comfortable. And I chucked all that and came back to entrepreneurial life. And as somebody said, I had a second innings, started all over again. I won't get into details as to how I went into paints or etc. But this time it's been very successful and I'm very happy doing what I am. So, you know, what I'm trying to say is that you guys at this stage, with the background that you have, if you can't take risks at this stage of your life with this excellent background and the kind of credibility that you have in the market, if you are inclined entrepreneurially, I'm not saying that everyone should do it, go ahead and do it. Even if you fail, try again. I mean, in the US it's very accepted, you know, unless you fail 2 or 3 times, it's more a badge of honor rather than something shameful. India is beginning to failures and recognize it. So what? Just go ahead and do it.
Hey, Madam. The next question, please. I'm an undertech student in electrical engineering. Please speak up. I'm an undertech student in electrical engineering. I want to know about the work style, the growth, the knowledge which we gain when we work in a technology company in US and a technology company in India. Because from past 5 years, all the major technology companies have established their offices in India. So what will be the work style or the knowledge or the work knowledge we gain from the work when we work in technology offices in India?
So we don't treat our global labs as any different. So we consider them all equal. We call them global labs. We don't call them emerging market labs or developing market labs. We call them global labs. And we don't think that that one lab is better than the other lab. Obviously, the people who are the more established labs are people with more experience. Where some of the newer labs, people have to gain that experience. But from a employee perspective, from an experience perspective, from a product ownership perspective, we don't think that a product should only be owned by US lab or we should all have people in terms of what they can own, what they can drive. We measure all that equally. So I think mature companies these days treat these labs on an equal basis. Now, I'm not saying that's true for every company. I think there are some companies who still treat these labs like India as a cheap labor. But I think at least in India we don't think of that way. Like, we don't consider the fact that today the salary might be a little lower really an issue because we do believe that a few years will not be equal anyway. So even if today it will be cheaper, it won't be cheaper only for whatever small. I think we are choosing a company to join with a US-based company to join in India. I think we should talk to the employees and find out how they treat the plant. Do they treat it like equal, or do they treat it like a inferior? That's my
the undertone was that Indian technology company versus US technology outside.
Yes.
Isn't it? That part is.
आपकी नहीं ले रहे आपकी नहीं ले रहे एंट्री दिखा रहे
स्टैंडर्ड वीडियोग्राफर
Yes sir. Yes sir, come.
Anil Bansal.
Because on one hand you are supposed to contribute and then you are taking. It should not be. It should be an activity as per that.
Something.
See, looking at it from one's own perspective, it's much more than the value. Because you don't do action,
Look at it from our viewpoint. We are getting more than what's worth, and we are keeping it how many people can become
So if your interest is to work as an engineer, there are a lot of people who are excited about working as an engineer, then by all means don't do an MBA.
और खिलाओ बेटा और खिलाओ साला खाना कम खाया ना आज अरे खाना कम खाया भैया ये क्या चीज़ पूरे उसमें ऑस्ट्रेलिया में
क्या साई क्या रिकमेंड कर रहे हो इसमें तुमने जो लिया
10 days, Dasara holidays here. I didn't know
Whatever the number is.
People here and meant for the entertainment of the people here, basically our batchmates and our spouses, and some of us have our children here, especially the ones whose children are studying on campus. They will also be presenting some items. Now, I have no idea as to the extent of talent amongst the better half. You know, the wives. If there is anyone who can sing or do anything to entertain us, maybe dance, recite a poem, why not?
BT is already entertained.
Spouses, I did not have you in mind.
One question.
Yeah.
When you do not have, you have to still applause.
Yeah, that will be.
Don't worry.
So, anyone, I have had only one volunteer, and that is Mrs. Arvind Sathi, so far amongst the resource planning and the Dean R&D. Many of us present here were not present in the morning session. Now, during the morning session, the batch collectively decided to appoint Dr. Anurag Kumar as the campaign convener for collecting the funds on behalf of the batch of 77. I hope it has the acceptance of everyone sitting here who are not present in the morning. And for those of you who were not attending this morning session, can I ask Anurag to come here and say a few words and brief you about some decisions that were taken?
So folks, this is my cultural act, don't call me back on the stage. So this morning, based upon Professor Manindra Agarwal's presentation, it was decided that roughly the batch should try to collect about ₹1 crore per year for the next 10 years. And the amount that anybody contributes is entirely up to them. It could be anything from 0 to any number that you can think of. So that the total amount that you collect is around ₹1 crore. And the way we're going to do it is that I am sort of the campaign manager, as I have been appointed by the batch, and I'll have 3 people working for me. Can I know who is going to help me in India? Can I see a show of hands? So can we stand up, please? Mohan Arora, where is he?
Yes.
Okay. And Naveen Chheda, where is he?
Manjit Singh.
Manjit Singh is also not here. There'll be 3 or 4 of us in India, and there'll be a few from the US or abroad. Who are they? Vivek Gupta and Amit Chatterjee. So there are 2 names. I think we'll add a few more. And so if you won't see any of the checks, the checks or the credit card deposits will all go to the IIT Alumni Association website or sent to them. I'll be sending out an email fairly soon containing maybe just 2 paragraphs. One paragraph is about this program, our objective. One paragraph is going to be about how to contribute. Okay, and the contributions are totally anonymous to anybody in this group. You can contribute any amount you want. And anonymously, with the name anonymized, I'll be getting a list of, the amount anonymized, I'll be getting a list of people who have contributed, and I'll then pick up the phone and make a few phone calls that put some pressure on me. Okay, so that's what the task I have to do, and I hope all of you will be interested in participating in this. Thank you.
One more serious piece of business before we start the cultural program. As you all know, people after graduating from here, from our batch and from just about every batch, go on to do very diverse things in life. Some of us end up in academia and R&D, some of us end up in industrial research, some of us are in corporate life, some of us are in entrepreneurial activities, some of us join the UPSC, and some go on to journalism, spiritualism, all kinds of very, very diverse things. There's one person in our batch who's here, who's gone into a very, very unorthodox area, and perhaps an area that any of us would be proud to have been associating himself or herself with. And that is David Thomas, who's been running a very an NGO in Tamil Nadu, doing very laudable work, highly talked about and highly regarded by everyone. And David would like to take 2 minutes of your time to talk about something that he's doing and maybe some cooperation that he needs from you. So can I invite David Thomas to please come forward and address us?
By all means.
Thank you for this opportunity to talk to you. In 2003, I decided to start this little NGO. I think we all go through this in our own minds. We wonder what we should do. Beyond the point of time when we work in the corporate world, we have basic existential doubts about what we're doing and whether we should do something different. And for me, those doubts came in 2003, and so I decided that maybe I had saved a little amount by then, and maybe it's time to take a risk and start doing something which I thought was interesting and meaningful to me. So I came back to my home state, Tamil Nadu, to a small town called Kodaikanal, which I chose at random, simply because me and my wife had gone there on a holiday and found it a nice place. So I said, why don't I go there and settle down? And then I found that the villages around Kodaikanal are small hill villages which are very backward. Some of them are tribal villages, some of them are non-tribal. And in those hill villages, the people who have the hardest life are the women. I think it's true about towns also that the hardest life is for the women, but particularly in the villages. And so I thought I'd try and do something which helped them. So I found that the main problem which women have in villages is that they're all in debt. They've borrowed large sums of money because they have a sudden illness in the family and they have to spend about 50,000. Then for the next 5 years they're in debt trying to repay that amount. And when you try and get loans from outside, the interest rate at which you get it is normally 120%, which is 10 rupees per 100 per month is the rate at which normally you get loans in villages. So I first thought that we should find some way of giving people access to cheaper money. And so we started some form of microcredit. I won't go into the details, but it's something like microcredit. We formed small groups of women in the villages. The first time I formed a group of women, it was very difficult because there was no reason why they should trust me, a person from outside, a person who did not speak good Tamil. And I found it a little difficult, but gradually I think we managed to establish ourselves. Today we have 5,000 women in our groups. We are able to get loans each year of around 5 to 6 crores for these women, with the use for a variety of reasons, but gradually we are encouraging them to start small businesses so that they have a source of revenue for them. Now that we have the trust, we're also getting them to do things in the area of sanitation and health. We get them to build toilets. You know that most of our villages are, just going into them itself is difficult because it's so dirty. So we're getting them to work on sanitation, health. We started a small school, a primary school. All this because now I think we have the trust of the people in 34 villages around Kodaikanal. When I started, I thought it would be an individual effort with a little bit of money from my savings. But I found over the 3 years that we've grown now, we have 10 field workers. And you're touched by such gestures and people do things like that. Now we've grown, we need to do many more things. And I just wanted to take this opportunity to ask any of you who would like to help my work financially with either a tiny monthly contribution, it could be 500 rupees, 1,000 rupees, anything. Or if you'd like to help with a particular project we now have, which we were building a short stay home for abandoned people, please do so. Just meet me after this session and I'll tell you how and in what way you can contribute. I think IIT Kanpur is different from the other IITs. One important difference has been, I think, is that IIT Kanpur has always had a conscience. We've always had active students in politics. We've always had a kind of appreciation of society, maybe because we're in the heart of rural India, unlike the other IITs which are in cities. So this is really just an extension of that, and I think many of my ideas were formed during my time at IIT Kanpur. So just a little request for you to help. If you can and would like to, please meet me after this session. Thank you very much.
A piece of information that I forgot to share with you. Also in the morning, an idea had come up, and the person who had floated the idea was Renu Gera. And she had said that, and she had told the dean that, in terms of contributing money, that's one part of it, and an important part of what an alumni should be doing. Could we be helping out IIT in some other socially meaningful objectives? Industry can walk inside the gates of IIT and go to the faculty building and talk about sponsoring research. But can a sarpanch of a village come to this institute? Would he dare to come here and talk about simple problems of the village, which may have very simple technological solutions? And could we do something about it? And Dipankar Sharma and Ray have both taken over convenership of this initiative of our batch. How and when they will solicit help from you and in what manner they will seek help from you, we leave it to them to decide, but they will also be in touch with you over emails in the forthcoming months to seek your cooperation on this very meaningful initiative that our batch could engage in. So that's all as far as serious work is concerned, serious discussions are concerned. Now, those smiles, get your hair down, unbutton your shirts, relax. Now we are here for fun. The first thing that we are going to do is this much talked about masterpiece, which has already been put in as an entry for the Pulitzer Prize. The Primates of IIT Kanpur 1972-77. This masterpiece edited by Shri Mohan Arora and Shri Madhukar. Now, before we start this cultural program, it's important for us to rewind and go back 40 years in time. The year 1972 and that era 1972 to 77. What was that period like? Let's recapture that and let us invite David Thomas, who has written the first foreword, the first introductory paragraph of this book, to define the sign of the times of 1972 to 77. Can I invite David to come on stage and read out sections of it?
We joined IIT Kanpur in 1972 when the nation was collectively on a high. Just 6 months earlier, in December 1971, Bangladesh had been liberated and India was ruled by the imperious Indira Gandhi, then at the height of her might and majesty. She had won the 5th Lok Sabha elections in 1971 with a thumping majority, her Congress party winning an impressive 352 seats, leaving just 22 for the Jan Sangh, the earlier avatar of the BJP. Indira had won with a powerful, simple message, Garibi Hatao, which resonated with the poor. Never mind that 35 years later, Garibi is still to be hatao. They thronged the polling booths to vote for her, their slogan being, Na jaat pe na paat pe, bas Indira ji ki baat pe, mohar lagegi haath pe. Indira was not just the tallest among leaders, she was the only leader, the others being merely her retainers. Among these retainers was the colourless Chief Minister of UP at that time, Kamalapati Tripathi. He was Chief Minister when we joined IITK. Another retainer was V.V. Giri, who was the President of our country when we first took the dusty road from Kanpur Central to Kalyanpur. As the poet said, we were young, we were merry, we were very, very wise. We knew a lot, or thought we did, and were interested in a whole range of subjects. But I don't remember politics or society being among them. We read Western and Indian philosophy, but not Karl Marx or Adam Smith. We discussed Hermann Hesse and Somerset Maugham, but not Gandhi, Nehru or Lohia. We were to a large extent blissfully unaware and unconcerned about the historical milieu in which we found ourselves. We were caught up in ourselves, our studies and our lives. Many of us, though, did take the trouble to attend the IITK MP lectures or listen to other public figures visiting the campus. But it was with the natural curiosity which comes to the young than due to any troubled social consciousness. We gave a standing ovation to Subramaniam Swami, he was around even at that time, when he spoke about the economic and political stagnation of India and exhorted us to take a year off to join the movement for change. We listened attentively when Pilu Modi, I don't know how many of you remember Pilu Modi, gave us a cynical observations about the Nehru family. But we were not so attentive when Jayaprakash Narayan told us that as students of technology, we needed to take a special interest in gobar gas plants. Even Mohit Sen of the CPI impressed us with the clarity of thought. It seems to me that in those days we were less conscious of caste and religion as students than perhaps people are today. We divided students into groups of Bangus, Fatrus, and maybe even into regional groups. The Jam gang, the Saudi gang, the Lucknow gang. But rarely did we look on students as being Hindu, Christian, Muslim, forward, backward, right, left, Dalit, and so on. So then what did we do? What did we notice about the world around us? We noticed that a girl called Karen Lunan looked stunning in a green bikini in the first Lidl advertisements. I think that she occupied a lot of mind space among all the students of IIT Kanpur at that time. We read with interest Kushwant Singh's Illustrated Weekly, Desmond Doig's Junior Statesman or JS, and Anis Young's Youth Times. We looked up when India Today was launched in 1975 and Sunday by M.J. Akbar in 1976. Shobha De Neet Kilachan made Stardust famous during our heydays. So it was really journalistically we lived in a significant time. But that was not only our reading habits. Our reading habits could also be judged from the fact that there was many a copy of Debonair or a Nick Carter Sizzler under many pillows in the rooms in Hall 3. If we choose to read poetry, which very few of us did, poets of the day were Kamala Das and Pritish Nandi. Many of us thought we could write and found outlets for our creative efforts, such as they were in the Spark, Counterpoint, Cheshire Cat, and even the campus NCC bulletin, which is called the Cadet News. I remember writing a poem for the Cadet News. I don't know if anybody know that there was a thing called the Cadet News, but there was. We listened more to Vivid Bharati than watched the only television channel, the black and white Doordarshan. Our toothpaste was Binaka, our detergent was Det, our shaving cream was Palmolive, although some of us did not need to shave, and some of us would not. And if we had a radio, it was a Murphy. And then there was cinema. Our stay at IIT Kanpur coincided with arguably the best years of Hindi cinema. In 1973, we drooled over Dimple Kapadia and Bobby. From 75 onwards, it was the angry young man of Hindi cinema, Amitabh Bachchan, who had us in thrall. Diwar, Zanjeer, Pakiza, Amar Akbar Antony, and the granddaddy of them all, Sholay. And then there were the leading ladies who occupied our many sleepless nights. And not just sleepless nights, even time in L7 was occupied with that. Hema Malini, Parveen Babi, Zeenat Aman, and Neetu Singh. Can one ever forget their sensuousness? Even if one now finds their chiffon saris, their transparent sleeves, tight kurtis, straight hair and flowers a little quaint. Alternate cinema for us and for the SFS meant the occasional Czech or Polish film with its few scenes of semi-nudity. We were as animal as we could be in our appreciation, healthily animal. L7, where SFS films were screened with an 8mm projector, was the crucible where a part of our outlook on life was formed. There we were politically and socially as incorrect as possible. We invented interactive cinema. Watching Helen dance her Pia2 number in the third repeat in smoke-filled L7 was what made life worth living. We wore trousers of all fits and shapes and shirts in every hue of the rainbow. I noticed that today we are much better dressed than we used to be at that time. All our clothes were ill-fitting. For the few of us who were fashion conscious, bell-bottoms and shirts with large collars were thought to be the height of fashion. V.C. Shukla, the information minister, was thought to be nattily dressed in a safari suit, but who cared? On the few occasions when we looked at the outside world, we noticed that the Prime Minister's son, a certain Sanjay Gandhi, had formed a company called Maruti Udyog to manufacture cars. Although till we left IIT Kanpur, not a single Maruti car had hit Indian roads. The Indian economy was small, controlled and inward-looking. India's total exports in 1975 were 4,036 crores. Today, a single company, Infosys, does better than that. When we were at IIT Kanpur, 5 and 10 paisa coins still jingled in our pockets. And we could get our slippers repaired by Gangu Mochi for the princely sum of 25 paisa. Petrol was rupees 3 a litre, and a cinema ticket, the best cinema tickets, cost all of 2 rupees. The official wage rate for part-time student employment at IIT Kanpur was 2 rupees an hour. Computerization was unknown, and every time I had to book a train ticket to my home in Delhi, I had to go to the Kanpur railway station, fill out a long form, stand in a longer queue, and finally watch the clerk at the counter, enter my reservation in a thick, large ledger. Then as now, cricket was a national pastime. Cricket was brought to us on All India Radio, not on Doordarshan, by the likes of Dicky Ratnagar and Pearson Sarita. I don't know whether you remember those commentators. Those were the glory days of spin, of our famed quartet, Bedi, Prasanna, Chandrasekhar and Venkat Raghavan. A certain young man called Sunil Gavaskar was just beginning to make his mark. Then as now, the team selection was questionable and erratic. In 1974, when the Indians toured the West Indies, Venkat Raghavan was made the captain for one test, and then in the next test he was dropped completely even from the team. The outside world, by the outside world, the world outside IIT Kanpur, India's politics and society rarely included into IIT Kanpur. Probably less than 10% of us followed political developments. In late 1973, which means in our second year, students in Gujarat launched the Nav-Nirman movement against corruption and for change in society. In many ways, that movement predates Anna Hazare and predates even JP. There were violent clashes which subsided only when the Chief Minister of Gujarat, Chimanbhai Patel, resigned and the assembly was dissolved. But we in IIT Kanpur barely noticed. We were more concerned with our student gymkhana politics. Elections were hotly contested and the issues mostly apolitical. Although there was a left-wing group on campus headed by the likes of Swapan Lahiri, P.K. Singh and Joey Raghavan, all PGs, ably assisted by Professors A.P. Shukla and Sarstha Budde. Similarly, there was a right-wing lobby centered around RSS activists led by R.K. Bansal and Pawan Kumar and guided by Professors Dhupar and Oberoi. So we had a left and we had a right on campus. Student Gymkhana presidents were colorful personalities. In our time, we had Ricky Suri, Radha Pillai, Mac Pillai, Rakesh Bhan, And finally, our very own Sanjeev Sahai. Where is he?
Missing.
Yes. Oh. Throughout 74 and early 75, we did notice that there were a number of agitations and discontent was spreading across the country. Indira Gandhi's Bangladesh halo was beginning to fade. Jayaprakash Narayan had launched his Sampurna Kranti Andolan, and students joined his movement in large numbers, particularly in Bihar. Even in IIT Kanpur, there were a few discussions and lectures on JP Sampurna Kranti. The country was ruled by Indira Gandhi's yes men. Fakhruddin Ali Ahmed became president, and N.D. Tiwari became the chief minister of Uttar Pradesh. Yes, the very same N.D. Tiwari of Nahu Nar, Nahu Nari, Mahu N.D. Tiwari. That was the slogan used at that time. He's still contesting the elections now, so maybe it's a violation of the election code. But this was the slogan at that time.
He tried to prove this wrong at the age of 84.
Yes. So that's what happened here. That maybe the slogan can be used by defense lawyers in the ongoing paternity suit against N.D. Tiwari. And then came the bombshell. On 12th June 1975, the Allahabad High Court set aside Indira Gandhi's election on technical charges of impropriety in the 1971 elections. The country waited with bated breath for Indira Gandhi's reaction. It did not have long to wait. On 25th June, the President declared emergency in the country, and that gave Indira Gandhi the power to rule by decree. There were mass arrests across the country. At IIT Kanpur, both Professor Dhupar on the right and Professor A.P. Shukla on the left were arrested. Professor Mani had to take Professor Shukla's classes. Exams were postponed and held only after the summer break. But sadly at IIT Kanpur, protests against the emergency were muted. Most students were unaware of the larger issues involved, and we continued to live our normal student lives. When the journalist Inder Malhotra wrote, "Not a dog barked," referring to the reaction to the declaration of emergency, he was talking about India in general, but he could have been talking specifically about IIT Kanpur. During the emergency, not one student at IIT Kanpur was arrested, a dubious distinction which almost no other college in North India had. Student union elections were banned across the country. Our own student Gymkhana elections were also banned initially, but later the director Amitabh Bhattacharya managed to get a waiver and elections were held. IIT Kanpur was probably the only country in India where elections were held during the emergency, another pointer to our docility. But we couldn't help noticing things happening in the country. We noticed that Kishore Kumar was banned from All India Radio. It was said in hushed tones that he had refused to sing at the Youth Congress rally and had therefore been summarily taken off the air by Sanjay Gandhi. In the country at large, 1976 was best known for the family planning program ruthlessly driven by Sanjay Gandhi. Any man with 2 children or more had to compulsorily be sterilized. Local officers were given sterilization targets, and in order to meet them, even the old, the very young, petty offenders and vagrants were rounded up. The fear of Nasbandi was very real, even among students at IIT Kanpur. There were unconfirmed reports that even 70-year-old Gangu Mochi had been Nasbandified. And then suddenly on March 21st, 1977, at the fag end of our IIT Kanpur days, the emergency was lifted and elections were called. The Student Senate, quiet as a mouse during the emergency, although some individual students did protest, now passed a resolution full of humbug welcoming its end. In its inimitable style, characteristic of the campus left, the resolution began. The Student Senate hails the release of political prisoners and the end of totalitarian rule in the country. Some of us travelled to Delhi to be among the lakhs who thronged Ram Leela Maidan to listen to JP, Jagjeevan Ram and a host of others. The Janata Dal swept the polls across the country, or at least the northern part of it. The country celebrated, spoons were used to clang in celebration in the Hall 1 mess as the results came in, and a midnight procession was taken to the hapless director's house. The final tally, Janata Dal 298, Congress 153, and the stern, principled, urine-drinking Gandhian, Morarji Desai, became our next Prime Minister. And soon after the end of emergency came the end of our stay at IIT Kanpur. An eventful 5 years came to an end. We were witnesses to history in the making. Or were we? we were probably too busy dividing our time between cramming for the end semesters and watching Zini Baby in L7. Thank you.
Founders of the Cheshire Cat, probably the greatest and the most humorous magazine to have ever come out on campus. And all issues of the Cheshire Cat are on the net. And you can go back and read those wonderful stuff that David and Mahadevan Ramesh and Balaji and Reddy and the whole group had written. One question, David, when you said our shaving cream was Palmolive, some of us did not need to shave and some of us would not shave. Did you have me and Dipankar in mind?
No comments.
Palmolive का जवाब नहीं.
Okay, the next item is by the next generation. Haripal Singh, that happens to be here in our midst, and she is going to present a classical dance. Is anybody accompanying her on any instrument? Akash? No, she's got her own.
Yeah.
student population are, but just as a piece of information for you, the favorite heroine during our times by everyone out here was Madhubala. If a film secretary did not promise to have a whole festival of Madhubala films, he had no hope in hell of getting Is Madhubala still popular or you moved on?
Definitely, sir. She is the eternal love of every guy in this world.
Hemant, we may announce that Cheshta has won the first prize in several contests.
Oh, wow.
And also the Secretary of Dance.
It's not surprising. You could tell from her movements how accomplished she was. So, I believe you have already graduated, I'm told, in chemical engineering. So, आपकी भी शिष्या है। हमारी शिष्या हैं, चलिए भाई बैठी भी है, क्या दिक्कत है? Thanks a lot, sister. Chapters in this book. One figures as chapter number 20. It's called, well, I want to give you the heading. I don't know who's written it because Mohan Arora and Madhukar have deleted the names of the authors. Here's my story. It was 1976, I think, and about 40 to 50 of our batch decided to see Hira Panna in some theatre in Gumti number 5 area. All was well till the movie ended after midnight. Then things began to happen. Anu Kapoor, where is Anu? Anu Kapoor, inspired by the movie, was walking like Devanand, tilting to one side and singing very loudly. Anu ki tamanna hai ki panna mujhe mil jaye. However, a drunk cop on duty who did not like Devanand saw red and ordered a lathi charge and hit Anu on the knee with his lathi. Immediately, Anu started sounding less like Devanand and more like Anu. Oh, साले ने घुटना तोड़ दिया. And all hell broke loose. The state IITL, and there were 50 of them, all roused out of their bourgeoisie stupor and transformed into fire-breathing revolutionaries baying for the blood of the oppressors. It seemed like Paris of 1968 at Gumti number 5. But the cop magically disappeared into thin air. Many things happened. Sanjeev Sahai made a speech. The crew decided to display his knowledge of police procedures and threatened the cop with section 307, 308, 402 and told him that he was the DM's son. Finally, around 3 a.m., that cop was located. He apologized to Anu. Sahai declared the revolution to be successful and it was time to go home to Kalyanpur. That night, I finally understood the true meaning of the phrase, necessity is the mother of invention. There were 30 of us left, but only one tempo available. And we managed to squeeze in and make it back to IIT. How it was done still remains a sweet mystery to me. A sequel to this or something more that happened, like somebody today this morning was telling me that the lathi charge was not on the knee but at some spot a little higher. So if you all can remember any evidence to this, can you?
It was on the backside.
You're free to contribute. There's another one which is written by Mahadevan Dinesh, who I think was one of the greatest writers of our batch. He was supposed to be here and I wanted him to read out this chapter himself. Unfortunately, he had to back out at the last moment. So this is chapter number 3. From one of Jitendra Gupta's emails to me, I learned that Tekida, the diminutive, grumpy and somewhat wacko mess worker of all three, had passed away. I guess years of eating all three mess grub can do it to you. To me, Tekadar was as much a part of my IITK landscape as the SFS movies or CNR Rao lectures or the canteen chow means. Let me narrate a Tekadar story as told by K.S. Balaji of our batch. Remember those days we used to suffer from chronic cash flow problems? Remember those days when our parents used to be irrationally tight-fisted about doling us money? Remember how Neeraj Nityanand used to double padlock all his belongings? In those trying economic times, Balaji had evolved into a Mahakanjus, probably falling beyond the 3 sigma of the population. During one of his weak moments, however, Tekadar approached him and subjected him to a sob story and finagled a soft loan of 10 rupees with a promise of The next day came and Balaji being Balaji promptly asked for his money. And Tekadar being Tekadar came up with a typical "Arey saab, मैं आपको देने वाला था और मेरा भाई बीमार पड़ गया" kind of story. This went on several more days. Balaji hassling him and Tekadar sliming away. Finally, a few weeks later, Balaji simply gave up, becoming a wiser man. Fast forward a few more weeks. Suddenly, somebody was talking about a big marriage in one of the villages nearby with Nautanki and Nach girls. We all rushed over. Sure enough, there was a massive crowd and a skimpily clad, terrible-looking woman was gyrating away to old Asha Bhosle tunes. We rubbed shoulders with the village crowd to gawk. At the end of a particularly sexy number, people started hurling money at her. And a 10 rupee note that came flying towards her was actually locked by none other than Tekadar. Balaji tried to leap in front of the Nach girl and to intercept it like a but his reflexes did not cooperate. So Balaji became a bitter, wise man, perhaps with the vicarious satisfaction of seeing his money reach a deserving Nach girl. As I write this, Tekadar in heaven must be tossing gold coins up there with those dancing heavenly nymphs like Urvasi and Menaka, while fetching tea and aloo parathe for Ved Vyas, etc. Balaji should contemplate a tax write-off and bring the matter to a closure, or hope like hell that he had better luck in his next incarnation. We have decided to give one copy of this to the university library, which has to keep it in the reference section. We have decided to give one copy to the Hall 3 reading room, and we have decided to give one copy to the Gymkhana book club. Now, I doubt if the institute librarian is here. So can Prabhat Munshi, on behalf of the institute, come and collect one copy with the promise of passing it on to the librarian?
I can collect it, but I cannot promise the second part.
Right? Hand it over to him. After that, what we do to him? You're not mentioned anywhere in this book, Prabhat. Do we have the Hall 3 president here? Or anybody from Hall 3 who can receive it on behalf of Hall 3? Excellent. It must be in a copy. It must be in the reading room.
Vinay Sahas, Tanmay.
Please. there is a Gymkhana Book Club, and the president of that is Puneet Singh, son of Puneet Singh. Thank you.
27 years अभी इनका जो है चल रहा है। क्या हुआ कि मैंने कविता लिखना शुरू किया, लोग मुझे माइक देने से घबराते हैं। तो मैंने ये बुक में काफ़ी टॉपिक्स हैं, मैंने 2 टॉपिक सेलेक्ट किए हैं। उन 2 टॉपिक पे बात करूँगा, एक एकेडमिक है और दूसरा सोशियो इकोनॉमिक है। तो एकेडमिक में कुछ पुरानी यादें ताज़ा करते हैं। इसका टाइटल है केके की दास्तान। आप सब लोग केके को जानते हैं, लेकिन केके यहाँ कई रूप में आए। अरे यार नाम मत बताओ यार। लेकिन वो कमल कुमार शुक्ला की तरह वो कई तरीकों से आया, कई डिफरेंट रूप लेके, तो उसको सुनाते हैं। तो पहले जब केके आए मेरे रूम में, अभी किसकी बात हो रही थी, नित्यानंद की, वो तो ताले में सब सामान रखते थे। हम लोग घर से आते थे तो बहुत सारा सामान लेके आते थे। तो केके रूम में घुसाए, क्या है खाने को, क्या है, मठरी है, बर्फी है, क्या है? नहीं कुछ नहीं लाए। ग्लाइकोडीन है ना, वही दे दो, वही खा लेंगे। उनको देख के लगता था कि ये शेर याद आ गया। आकर उनकी मजार पर वो सिगरेट जला के चल दिए, दिए में जो तेल बाकी था सर पे लगा के चल दिए। अच्छा, होमवर्क होता था तो मेरे पास लोग आते थे, यार तुमने होमवर्क कर लिया, अब मेरा पहला नंबर है यार। तो हो जाता था 1 के 2, 2 की 4 डुप्लीकेट, साइकिल स्टाइल नहीं था उससे माने, तो हाथ से करना पड़ता था। तो अगले दिन ये हो रहा था, मॉर्निंग में मैं सब जगह घूम रहा हूँ। अरे सालों कुछ तो शर्म करो, मेरा होमवर्क तो वापस करो। तो मोहन के पास पहुंचे, मोहन के बाद पता लगा, मोहन के बाद आखिरी होमवर्क बचा था। मोहन मेरा होमवर्क तो वापस करो। होता अरे यार तुम समझा करो ना, तुम्हारा होमवर्क ऑलरेडी जमा कर दिया। उसके बाद से मैंने जब कॉर्पोरेट वर्ल्ड में गया तो मैंने जो है परमानेंट मार्कर इन्वेंट किया अपना नाम लिखने के लिए। तो उसके बाद याद है इको मनोवन की क्लास, उसमें जो है पता नहीं किसमें एक जने को ग्रेड मिला था। तो केके को जो है क्लास में लोग ऐसे गप मार रहे थे, वो जो है हमारे प्रोफेसर साहब थे, वो जितनी स्पीच लिखते थे, जो आपने 3 इडियट्स देखी ना, उसमें दोनों हाथों से जो लिखते हैं, हाँ वो जो है उसी स्पीच लिखते थे, उसी स्पीच चलते थे। या तो आप उनको पेंडुलम में देख लीजिए, यहाँ के नोट्स उतार लीजिए, और जब तक आपने इधर का नोट्स उतारा उधर तक पहुंचे, वो 4 सेक्शन हो गए थे, यहाँ खत्म नहीं हुआ, मिटा दिए गए। हाँ, एग्जाम में क्या मेरे को मिल गया था। तो केके को खड़ा कर दिया, केके उठो, क्या उठ के खड़ा हो गए, वहाँ जीपीए क्या है, सीपीआई क्या है? केके थोड़ी देर बोले, अरे आंखें क्यों दिखाते हो, A ग्रेड तो दिखाओ डॉक्टर वत्सन। अरे आंखें क्या दिखाते हो, A ग्रेड तो दिखाओ डॉक्टर वत्सन। अरे छुपा के रखा है, माल अच्छा है। क्या आज सुबह डीन आरपीजी की मीटिंग हो रही थी दोपहर में, तो उसमें मिशन स्टेटमेंट बताया गया, उसमें 2 कमियां हैं। तो हमारे ख्याल से 2 जो कमियां बताई गई वो हमारे ख्याल से गलत है। तो सबसे बड़ी कमी है, एक मिशन मिसिंग है कि यहाँ पे इस समय 9 मेंस हॉस्टल हैं, अभी भी 2 गर्ल्स हॉस्टल हैं, उसमें भी एक मैरिड गर्ल्स की है। रेशियो से गड़बड़ है, लेकिन इसकी वजह से कितनी प्रॉब्लम हुई थी, अभी तक चल रही है। तो एक मिशन की बात हो रही थी, मैं बाय द वे मैं कमेटी में हूँ जिसमें कि आपको पैसा देना है, और उसमें हम लोग बात कर रहे थे दोपहर में कि कुछ ऐसा किया जाए जिससे हम लोगों का नाम रोशन रहे, सब लोग हमको जाने। तो बात हो रही थी कि ऐसा आउटरीच का हॉल बना दिया जाए, या फिर जो है प्रेसिडेंट को क्या था फैकल्टी क्लब का बना दिया जाए। सब बेकार की बातें हैं, कौन देखेगा? अरे बनवाना तो जो है 2-4 बेंचेस बनवाओ जीएच के बाहर, और सामने 4 पकौड़े की दुकान लगाओ। जितने मजदूर यहाँ बैठ के वेट करते हैं उनको फायदा होगा, सब दुकान रहेंगे। उसमें केके का है कि और एक और बात थी कि जिस हम लोग क्लास में अटेंडेंस की बड़ी प्रॉब्लम थी, लेकिन जिस क्लास में जैसी टीच आती थी तो 100% अटेंडेंस होती। तो उसके बाद केके का ये हाल है कि वो अपना किस्सा सुना रहा था। हमारा यहाँ गर्ल्स हॉस्टल में 50 लड़कियां थी और 150 भाभियां। बाहर लोग खड़े रहते थे, बोलते थे केके साहब गा रहे हैं, ओ हसीना चाल तेरी मतवाली है, ओ हसीना चाल तेरी मतवाली है। तो मोहन बोलते थे बुरी नजर से ना देख, वो तेरी होने वाली भाभी है। उसके बाद केके बड़े दुखी हुए। एक दफे उन्होंने कहीं पे दिल लगा लिया और जो है मात खा गए। लड़की ने ड्रॉप करके जरा किसी और से शादी कर ली। तो बोलते हैं कि उसके पाने के लिए तो मैं भगवान से भी लड़ जाता, उसको पाने के लिए तो मैं तो भगवान से भी लड़ जाता। फिर सोचा एग्जाम का टाइम है, भगवान से पंगा लेना ठीक है। अब एक बड़ा क्लासिक किस्सा है, पता नहीं सबको मालूम है कि नहीं, ये इस किताब में भी नहीं है, तो मैं आपको सुनाता हूँ। उस जमाने में ये सब दीवारें नहीं थी, ये बिल्डिंगें हैं, आउटरीच है। आप वहाँ पे L7 के रास्ते में जा रहे हैं तो बड़ी बड़ी दुकानें, बड़ी बड़ी बिल्डिंग्स बन गई हैं। आपको मालूम नहीं उसके उन बिल्डिंगों के नीचे कितने लोगों की मोहब्बतें दबी हुई हैं। इस जमाने में बाग हुआ करते थे वहाँ पे, बड़े बड़े सांपा भी होते थे, लेकिन बड़े बड़े घास के बाग। तो केके साहब का एक दिन जोश सवार हो गया, बोलते आज बाग में जाके गाना गाएंगे। पहुंचे बाग में, गाना गाना शुरू किया। तो बचना में हसीनो, बचना है हसीनो, लो मैं आ गया, लड़की है या जादू, खुशबू है या नशा। बहुत देर गाना सुनाई पड़ता रहा, हॉल के सामने सुनाई पड़ता था। विंग में हम लोग बैठे हुए थे, अचानक देखा कि केके दौड़े दौड़े चले आ रहे, बाथरूम में घुस गए। तो लोग पूछने लगे यार तुम तो बाग में बढ़िया बढ़िया गाना गा रहे थे, बढ़िया मौसम में क्या हो गया बाथरूम में घुसे? तो थोड़ी देर में देखा 2 भैंसियां ने पीछे दौड़ी आ रही। उनको पहला ब्रेक मिला DTC की बस में। तो यहाँ पे तो उसके बाद बनी हुई DTC बस में चढ़े हुए थे, तो अचानक हिम्मत करके उन्होंने आगे एक लड़की खड़ी उसको धक्का दे दिया जोर से। तो लड़की बोलती है ये क्या कर रहे हो, कौन हो तुम, क्या कर रहे हो? बोला मैं IIT में BTech कर रहा हूँ IIT में। शादी के बाद हनीमून पे गाना गा रहे थे, इसके एक शेर पढ़ा, तुझे देखकर झूम उठती है मेरे दिल की खली, तुझे देखकर झूम उठती है मेरे दिल की कली, जैसे बाहर आने में झूमती है मटर की खली। उसको फास्ट फॉरवर्ड करिए करीब 5 साल पहले, तो उनके घर में वही शेर पढ़ा जा रहा है, वो जालिम आज फिर अरवी शलजम और गुड़ की डली, डार्लिंग कब पकाएगी तू आलू के साथ मटर की खली। चलिए एक आखिरी शेर सामने, फूल खिलता है कली से, फूल खिलता है कली से, अरे विवेक निकल जा तू पतली गली से।
Never came to the fore during the 5 years that you were at IIT. It's a pity that we had to wait for so long to watch all this and enjoy it. The next item will be a musical item. 2 performers on the stage, both of the next generation. One is Sadvansha Munshi, the young daughter of Prabhat Munshi, and she will be playing on the keyboard, and accompanying her would be Akash Das Sharma of Dipankar and Nabha fame, and Sadvansha, sorry. Sadvansha and Akash for such a lovely performance. We have another one of the second generation here. The first generation is missing. Vinay Shah lives in Kanpur but has not found the time to come here so far.
Vinay is in Delhi.
Oh, acha, he is out of town.
There is some very urgent exposition of his company.
Okay, I take back my criticism. His son is here, Tanmay. Now I am told that Tanmay is not a very regular cultural performer, but we said that listen, you are our batch kid, and you have to perform. So he's been really motivated and he's consented to come and sing on stage. Please give a very, very big hand to Tanmay Shah.
You can testify to that, but I'll try my best. This is a song by John Denver. Follow me. Thing I've ever done to be so in love with you so long. Follow me where I go, what I do, make it hard for you to be a part of me. Follow me up and down, all the way and all around. Take my hand and say it's long been on my mind, it's been a long, long time. I've tried hard to find a way that I could make you understand the way I feel about you, and really how much I need you to be there where I can talk to you when there's no one else around. Follow me where I go, what I do, make it hard for you to be a part of me. Follow me up and down, all the way and all around. Take my hand and I will follow you. See, I'd like to share my life with you and show you the things I've seen, places that I'm going to, and places where I've been, to have you there beside me, never be alone. But all the time that you're with me, we will be at home. Follow me where I go, what I do, make it hard for you to be a part of me. Follow me up and down, all the way. Take my hand and I will follow you.
You have to check his Facebook.
Thanks a lot, Tanmay. Great. And now we find that he's a performer of great repute. Madhu Mathur. Like to do a comic act, some parody, some skit. आपको wait करके करना होगा.
अब फॉर चेंज ऑफ टॉपिक मैं बहुत ही लो टेक आम आदमी वाली एक पैकेज स्पीक. चोर माल ले गए, लोटे थाल ले गए, मूंग और मसूर की सारी दाल ले गए, और हम डरे डरे खाट पर पड़े पड़े, सामने खुले हुए किवाड़ देख के खुल गए, घूस में जो कल मिले वे रुपए निकल गए। आंख जब खुली के तब हाय सेंध लग गई, यूं लगा कि पैर की जमीन ही निकल गई। रेडियो गिरा गए, फ्यूज भी उड़ा गए, 8 एग्स का बना के ऑमलेट खा गए। और हम डरे डरे खाट पर पड़े पड़े, सामने खुले हुए किवाड़ देख रहे। थोड़ा जोश आया। श्रीमती को जोर से आवाज मारी फेंक कर, जगा दिया पड़ोसियों को मैंने रैंक रैंक कर। 5-7 आदमी झपट के घर में आ गए, 2 कदम चले ही थे कि चट से मुझको पा गए। चोर चोर कह के वे मुझसे सब लिपट गए। मैंने दिल में यूं कहा आज तो निपट गए। पिटते पिटते हेड की नसें हमारी हिल पड़ी, श्रीमती भी आ गई वो चप्पलों से पिल पड़ी। और हम पिटे पिटे दीवाल से सटे सटे, जूतियों से बाल का उखाड़ दे। कुछ लोगों के दिलों की आवाज सी आ रही थी, तो शायद कुछ लोगों की इस गाने से फ्रीक्वेंसी मैच कर जाए। हम लोग यहाँ पुरानी यादों को ताजा करने के लिए इकट्ठा हुए हैं, तो एक डिफरेंट पर्सपेक्टिव। सुनो जी बड़ा लुत्फ था जब कुंवारे थे हम तुम, सुनो जी बड़ा लुत्फ था जब कुंवारे थे हम तुम, सुनो जी बड़ा लुत्फ था जब। मैं हीरो था कितनों का शादी के पहले, था अफसाना कितनों का शादी के पहले। बड़ी ब्यूटीफुल थी जवानी की शामें, हसीनों से होती थी रंगीन बातें। मुझे आज भी याद है वो जमाना, हसीनों के जमघट में पिकनिक मनाना। मगर जब से तू बन गई मेरी दुल्हन, मेरी जिंदगी बन गई एक उलझन। जो शादी हुई तो बजे मेरे 12, मेरी हर खुशी हो गई 9-2-11। तेरी बूढ़ी माँ ने कभी मुझको डांटा, कभी बन गए तेरे डैडी दिल का काटा। कभी जान को आ गए तेरे भाई, कभी तेरी बहनों ने की हाथापाई। और उस पे सितम हर बरस एक बच्चा, चलो अब जी को चबा जाओ कच्चा। मजा किरकिरा सब हुआ आशिकी का, समझ लो जनाजा उठा जिंदगी का। कि महकते दमकते सितारे थे हम तुम, सुनो जी बड़ा लुत्फ था जब कुंवारे थे हम तुम, सुनो जी बड़ा लुत्फ था जब कुंवारे थे हम तुम, सुनो जी। इसका एक लेडीज वाला पार्ट भी है जो मुझे नहीं आता है।
यार तो बड़े छुपे रुस्तम लिखने हैं, छुपे रुस्तम है। कोई आइडिया ही नहीं थे कि आप ऐसे बोल भी सकते हैं।
Now we will have the last of the book reading session. There is a particular chapter that Renu found particularly amusing and expressed a desire to read, and I will invite Renu to come and read that chapter.
And we go back to the year 76. It's cultural festival time. All the people here know what's on everybody's mind. Starts with the letter F. Does somebody help? Starts with the letter F. I'm trying to prompt you.
Fun.
Oh, fun. That's good. What comes after fun? Or maybe a part of fun?
Frolic.
Okay. What else?
Fearless.
Females? No, that guy's never thought about females.
Oh, yeah.
They only thought about food. platter which
You
says,
should have
"Take
told me
it
there's
for
a
a
four-letter
ride."
word starting with M. You would have guessed it.
Okay.
Food would have been obvious.
Yeah.
Okay, food and trolley. It says one of the most important elements of the festival was the food stalls. As the practice has been in the past, the contract for these stalls would be awarded to some seasoned and tested businessmen. This year also, a cultural secretary had something similar in mind. I think we still have the cultural secretary with us. But the portrait of Mahadev, Mohan, Ramu and Sanjeev had other ideas. Mr. Cultural Secretary, what is the protocol for awarding the stall contract? Asked Mohan. We have invited several restaurant owners and they will bid. The highest bidder will be awarded the contract, replied the secretary. Am I right? Does one have to be a restaurant owner to bid? Asked Mahadev. No, anybody can bid. Madhukar, sorry. What if somebody does phony bidding just to raise the amount? Asked Sanjeev. Well, if the phony bidder is the last bidder and if he cannot produce the required deposit money, the contract will be awarded to the next highest bidder, clarified the secretary. They returned to their rooms realizing that they will never be able to outbid these established businessmen with deep pockets, but they were not going to throw in the towel yet. A plan was hatched. At 10 o'clock in the morning, it was the day of the bidding. Mr. Secretary and his sidekicks were elegantly perched on the raised dais in front of the conference room of Hall 1. Unfortunately, I didn't see any of it, otherwise I would have been able to put more feeling into it. There were already 4 teams of businessmen. One of them ran the Hall 5 canteen, and I believe his name was Nair. And the remaining 3 seemed like they came from Kanpur. From the appearances and demeanor of these businessmen, they looked like they were well fed and had been doing this for years. A few seconds before the bidding started, the 4 entered the room and headed to the very back. Those present in the room casually glanced at them, not thinking much about their presence. After asserting his authority by an opening speech, Mr. Secretary went over the rules of the bidding. We're going to award the contract to run the stall, which will be located right next to the main pandal. The stall will sell only soft drinks and snacks, no booze. The person winning the bid will have to deposit half the amount today, he added. After giving a fleeting look at his cronies to make sure they were all taking notes and were ready, I will start the bid with 200 rupees. 201, 202, 250 called one of the businessmen. 300 said the other. 301, 302. As the bidding continued, the 4 split with Madhukar, Sanjeev positioned in one corner, Mohan and Ramu in the other corner of the back of the room. The bidding had reached 550. 600, yelled Madhukar from his corner. All the businessmen sitting in the front looked back to see where this challenge was coming from. Mr. Secretary did not appear pleased with non-professionals spoiling a highly structured and professionally run cabinet. But as for the rules, he could do much. 601, he spoke slowly so as to give others sitting in the front an opportunity to outbid them. 5,000, shouted Mohan from the other corner. There was silence in the room. Do you realize that you have to deposit half the money today, Mr. Secretary? While eyeing Mohan, Mohan gave a sly smile and gently nodded. As much as the others wanted to win the lucrative contract for the stall, paying more than rupees 5,000 for the privilege was too much for them to swallow. 5,001, 5,002, he looked around to see if anybody would challenge Mohan. 5,003, he declared, and struck the gravel of the table. The secretary was disappointed that the award did not go to somebody already tested in the business. But at the same time, he was happy that the final bid was rupees 5,000, which was rupees 4,200 more than what it fetched for the same stall last year. All the outsiders dispersed, feeling pity on our lack of business acumen. It was the time to play part 2. Congratulations, Mohan. I will need 2,500 rupees. Would you pay by check or cash? Yes. What do you mean? Said Mohan, bewildered. I mean, you have to deposit half the money right now, said Mr. Secretary, adding a little growl to his voice. Pretending to be embarrassed, Mohan said, I apologize for the confusion, Mr. Secretary. I must have misunderstood you. I thought the money was to be given after the cultural festival. As the secretary is isolated and they budget it, doesn't mean that he doesn't get the contract. That's correct, 100%.
Attendant to this incident.
You want to last word?
I was not just taken for a ride once, I was taken for a ride twice. The second joke is also on me. Now he did deposit the 300 rupees. The remaining 300 rupees were to be deposited at the end of the first day of the festival. So at the end of the first day of the festival, I went to them, बाकी 300 रुपया लाओ. They said अभी बौनी हुई है. They both swore to their hearts that tomorrow evening, balance 300 rupees you can take. I had no option. This was the only stall. By then, they had done something funny, which is mentioned in another chapter here, which I will not read. The only competition that they had was from the nearby Sack Canteen. They had already a few days earlier purchased dead rats from the city, stuck them to the underside of the Sack Canteen with tape, and with the stench coming out, before the canteen guy could realize he had lost all his patrons. There was no competition out there. So, it was a question of who would blink first. We needed a stall out there. He realized my predicament and exploited it to the full. The next day, I was hoping that at least by the end of the day they'll cough up that remaining 300 rupees. The stall made an announcement that everybody buying some receipt, some token would be given to them, and there would be a lucky draw at the end of the day, and the winner of the lucky draw would get a beer bottle. Many people had been making their purchases. I had also purchased some cold coffees, etc. And I bought my token. Little did I know that that token was a predetermined planned token for which they knew the number. At the end of the day, the lucky draw is drawn out, and miraculously the token that I had is called out. I felt very lucky. I went and claimed my beer bottle. 2 hours later, I went to Mohan and I said, "Oh, baki 300 rupiya de." He put his hand around my shoulder and said, "Sale tera lottery nikalwaya hai." That was my first brush with attempted corruption.
And you are proud to say you succumbed immediately.
They have still not paid the money. I have done a rough calculation. The present cultural secretary can please note, with accumulated interest, they owe the cultural council some 57,000 rupees by now. Now we'd like to have a comic act with the first and the most original comedian of our batch, Mukesh Anjaya.
Start with Mr. Overall.
Ramasheshan.
You want the roving mic or the microphone? You reach.
Ice cream. क्या रसमलाई,
इमरती,
तिल का टिक्का वगैरह, मतलब ऐसा चला हुआ है कि यहाँ आके मैं I just got up when my name was called. And
the other performers so boring.
And मतलब normally the starting of the act is कि आप तीसरी बार सुन सकते हैं कि नहीं. So like Professor Ramasheshan used to ask, am I audible in the rear? Today, like Atul Kapoor, I have to ask, am I audible from the rear?
Andu was the most standing out student of the class of Professor 86.
शुरू करना बड़ा मुश्किल होता है. शुरू करना बड़ा मुश्किल होता है.
दूसरा ले लो दूसरा
Professor Oberoi, he welcomed us. He was the word
शुरू करना बड़ा मुश्किल होता है। हजारों साल पहले अर्जुन को भी यही दुविधा थी, लेकिन उसका ड्राइवर ने उसको लंबा चौड़ा लेक्चर दे दिया, वो निकल गया। I am kind of stuck, you know, कैसे शुरू किया जाए, मतलब भाइयों और भाभियों। फिर रेनू रह जाती है। So anyway, let's stick to standard, ladies and gentlemen, और सज्जनों उनकी सज्जनों, क्योंकि रेनू रह जाती
कुछ बच्चे भी हैं।
She's done a great favor by coming here, and I think we started off with 4 females in the class.
Yes.
Yes. One ran away. And then there were 3. 2 of them are here, thank you. Actually it's kind of difficult, you know, because क्या है, whenever I used to come up, मेरे पहले एक बंदा आता था और मतलब he used to start up, he was a proper stand-up comedian. I am not a stand-up comedian. मैं तो बैठे बैठे महफिलों में लोगों को यूं ही हंसाया करता हूँ, नॉर्मली 2 पेग के बाद। 2 पेग के बाद हंसना भी आसान है और सारे हंसे नहीं तो फिर रुलाना भी आसान है। तो बैठे बैठे मतलब I can entertain people, but ये stand up इसमें दूसरा प्रॉब्लम भी सामने आता है कि मैं बैठूं या खड़ा रहूं, लोगों को फर्क दिखता नहीं है। मतलब ये होता था कि वो पहले आता था, स्टैंड अप करके जाता था, अंडे टमाटर खा लेता था, मेरे लिए चप्पल बच जाती थी। तो उसने क्या किया, मतलब मैकेनिकल में उसने कुछ किया है, डिग्री, बाद में नौकरी चाकरी करके फिर वो MBA करके गया। तो MBA में क्या हुआ, उसको लगा कि उसका इंटेलिजेंस कम हो गया। तो बाद में आगे जाके उसने आर्टिफिशियल इंटेलिजेंस लेके PhD कर लिया। मतलब MBA में इंटेलिजेंस कम तो होता ही है, दिमाग कम चलाना होता है, जबान ज्यादा चलानी पड़ती है। जी मैकेनिकल वाले बोलेंगे कि भैया इसको इसमें डाल दो, नहीं जा रहा तो थोड़ा फाइल मार के लगा, फिर पूछेंगे समझे क्या। MBA वाले ऐसा नहीं बोलेंगे। But do you have any strategic issues with the broadband assimilation of the concept? ऐसे करके उसको बुलाया है तो समझना तो पड़ता ही है, तो ऐसे कुछ समझा देते हैं। You give them a problem, and what do they give you? They give you an end-to-end solution. कभी सुना है ज़्यादा, बचपन से कभी सुना है कि end-to-end solution? अरे solution है तो beginning to end होना चाहिए। लेकिन beginning to end को मालूम होता नहीं और समझ नहीं पाते, तो फिर ये end-to-end solution देके चले जाते हैं। और संसार की वाट लगाने वाले यही हैं। आप देखो लेमैन ब्रदर्स, इसने बिगाड़ा MBA वालों ने, they led everybody। तो मतलब ये this is kind of this is the way the cookie crumbles।
तुम क्या बोल रहे हो?
ये तो उल्टा है यार। जमाना बदल रहा है। ये एक्चुअली क्या था, मैंने ये after the interaction I will be speaking to youngsters also. So जमाना बदल रहा है, आजकल पैसे ATM से आते हैं, पहले क्या था बाप से पैसे मांगने पड़ते अब ये हो गया कि ATM ही सबका बाप हमारे जमाने में मतलब क्या है, लड़कियां होती नहीं थी कॉलेज में, 2-4 छोड़ के। आजकल हम देख रहे हैं कि लड़के लड़की साथ में भी चलते हैं, मतलब साइकिल पे घूमते हैं हम। हमारे जमाने में ऐसा नहीं था, रात को जाना पड़ता था छुप छुप के जिए और फिर चौकीदार को डराना पड़ता था। हमारे भाई साहब ने चौकीदार को धौंस दिखाई थी, जानते हैं मैं कौन हूँ। Anyway, that story should be part of another book.
सेकेंड एडिशन के लिए जगह नहीं बचा है।
But we are a record-breaking batch. There are 4 children in IIT Kanpur, and 4 of us got married in IIT Kanpur. 2 girls from IIT Kanpur. So I mean, the rest of us probably kept out because there were not that many girls. It's not that people didn't try. पहले मतलब क्या था, 3 दिन साल में लड़कियां आती थी, ढेर सारी आती थी और चली जाती थी। 2 साल तो ये हालत रही कि कारवां गुजर गया, गुबार देखते रहे। फिर 3rd ईयर में कुछ गाइड साइड बना दिया किसी ने, मेरे ख्याल से हेमंत जलानी थे, और 4th और 5th ईयर में कुछ कल्चरल एक्टिविटी करने लगे हम लोग, एंड सो दैट वाज अ गुड बिट। IIT से पास होकर आपको लगता है कि आप बड़े मतलब क्या बोलते हैं, तीरंदाज बन गए हैं, बड़े बड़े लोग यहाँ साइंटिस्ट बने हैं, तालियां बजाइए, एक के 3000 साइटेशन है। तो एक बार ऐसा IIT वाला साइंटिस्ट प्लेन में चढ़ा और बगल में एक बच्चा था कॉलेज वाला, तो साइंटिस्ट को लोग थोड़ा टाइम पास करते हैं, बच्चे को बोला, उसने चलो हम लोग आर्गुमेंट कुछ लेटर्स है, कोई बहस करते हैं। अच्छा बता, चलो करते हैं। बोलता किस पे करेंगे? तो न्यूक्लियर पावर पे करेंगे। प्रभात मुखर्जी जी सो न्यूक्लियर पावर पे बहस करेंगे। फिर बच्चे ने बोला ठीक है, बहस शुरू होने से पहले मैं आपको एक सवाल करता हूँ, बताओ। कहता देखो, बकरी, गाय, घोड़ी, सब ये लोग घास ही खाते हैं, ठीक है। बकरी, गाय और घोड़ी घास खाते हैं, लेकिन तीनों का आउटपुट देखो। बकरी का यू यू यू, गाय भाग से गिराती है और घोड़ी वो छोटी छोटी बुलेट छोड़ती है। तो ऐसा क्यों? उनका खुराक तो एक ही है। तो मुंशी जी बोले नहीं ये तो पता नहीं। तो लड़का साले यू डोंट नो शिट।
This was on Facebook.
The original joke was a less sanitized version of what he just narrated.
वैसे जमाना बदल ही रहा है, लोगों से मतलब लाज शर्म आजकल कम होती जा रही है। अब मुंशी जी पढ़ा रहे थे और क्या हुआ कि खिड़की से अचानक एक बंदर आ गया। हाँ, तो बंदर आ गया तो एक लड़की बोली ये आपको भाई साहब आए। तो मुंशी जी रिमेंड वेरी क्वाइट, पूरा एप्लीकेशन लिख दिया और बाद में घूम के बोले किसी ने कुछ बोला क्या, किसी का कोई सवाल था? तो पहले तो 2 मिनट साइलेंस। मुंशी बोला मैं कुछ करूँगा नहीं, आप जरा बता दो क्या सवाल था। तो लड़की उठ के बोली नहीं मैंने बोला था कि आपके भाई साहब आए। तो मुंशी जी भी बड़े हाजिर जवाबी, कहता बेटी शर्माते नहीं, आजकल सब नाम लेते हैं। I must thank Madhu Mathur for reminding me of the good old days. That was a cultural mistake we made. We invited Kavi Neeraj. Yes. To Haase Kavi Sammelan. And they were as usual drinking daru in teapots.
brown bag.
And we had the opportunity to hear both versions of the song. The original by Neeraj and Madhu Mathur wala from Kaka Atrasi. Kay Kaka Kaviraj. So that was, it was good, and I still remember that Haase Kavi Sammelan. I would like to, this was for the young kids who were there. We have a lot of, talk about nowadays about Anna Hazare, Arvind Kejriwal and social commitment, etc. We could have, hundreds of arguments about what's going on there. But what I want everyone to remember is that we are from an institute which has established the Satyendra K. Dubey Award. And in our personal lives and wherever we can, we should try and live up to the ideals of that award. Thank you. You see, in my first medical exam, the president of the board was a guy who knew my grandfather, so I thought कि अभी तो पास हो गया मैं. But he came up against an obstacle. In fact, he came up against 2 obstacles.
One was the height, I think.
One was inadequate height and the other was obesity, which still remains. So, apparently Gurkha sailors and officers have a lower standard for height. So then I asked the Navy a question, do you think a Gurkha can do more engineering than I can? So they didn't have an answer to that. And I landed up in the Navy on a Gurkha ticket.
Thank you, Mukesh. I wish you a friend and partner in comedy, Udai Madhukar. Madhukar ji,
reunion attendance. तो काफी लोगों को पहचान नहीं पड़ा था. Obviously काफी पाउंड्स लोगों ने ऐड कर दिए हैं, थोड़ी चुनियाँ पड़ गई हैं, लेकिन लोग मुझे बता रहे थे कि मैं नहीं बदला. And then I started thinking about it. पहले भी काम में मन नहीं लगता था, अभी भी नहीं लगता, नहीं बदला. पहले भी लोग बोलते थे बड़े लेजी हो, पत्नी बोलती है तुमसे तो कोई काम ही नहीं होता, मैं नहीं बदला. पहले भी बैठ के लॉन में सितारों को देखते थे, कहते someday I'll be a big man, earn a lot of money. अभी भी रॉकिंग चेयर पे कभी-कभी देखता हूँ सीलिंग के ऊपर someday I'll be a big man and earn a lot of money. मैं नहीं बदला. Anyway, so ये जो मैं आपको शायरी सुनाता हूँ, कोई बड़ी बहुत अच्छी शायरी वैसे नहीं है, बेसिक तो बंदी है. और इसका मेरी पत्नी यहाँ पे नहीं है, तो इसलिए I'm free to say anything you want. तो उनके कोई स्पाइस यहाँ पे बैठे हैं, so आप भी केयरफुल. मोहन नहीं है. तो सबसे पहले मैं सुनाता हूँ IIT के दिनों को याद करने के 4 लाइनें हैं. जब से हुई शादी हमारी, चली गई आजादी सारी. गलती ना भी हो हमारी, पर बोलना पड़ता है I'm sorry. दोस्तों याद आता है पहले कितना मजा, दोस्त याद आता है, आता था पहले कितना मजा, हंसते थे बेवजह हंसते थे सुबह शाम बेवजह। दोस्त याद है आता था पहले कितना मजा, हंसते थे सुबह शाम बेवजह। लेकिन अब मुंह खोलने की आती है तभी बारी, जब नहीं रुकती जमाई हमारी। दूसरे 2-4 कविता शायरी है मैं सुनाता हूँ, इनका थोड़ी बैकग्राउंड दे दूं मैं। मैंने काफी कपल्स आए हैं, दे मोस्ट ऑफ देम सीम प्रीटी मच मेड फॉर ईच अदर। उनको देख के नहीं लगता जैसे निर्मल चाहे हैं, तो दे लुक रियली मेड फॉर ईच अदर। आई कैन नॉट इमेजिन कि दे वुड एवर फाइट, लेकिन हमारी फैमिली का सीन कुछ दूसरा है। हमारे यहाँ एक हफ्ते तक अगर झगड़ा नहीं होता है तो मेरी पत्नी मुझसे चिंता करने लगती है कि मेरी तबीयत ठीक है, मैं चिंता करने लगता हूँ उसकी तबीयत ठीक है। तो ये है, फिर मैंने सोचा हमारा इतना झगड़ा क्यों होता है। देन आई स्टार्ट एनालाइजिंग कि हम कभी कहना कुछ चाहते हैं लेकिन मेरे मुंह से कुछ निकल जाता है, तो उसका मिस इंटरप्रिटेशन की वजह से हमारा झगड़ा हो जाता है। तो उस पर कुछ लाइन लिखी है मैंने कि कैसे मैं कहता हूं और कैसे वो मिस इंटरप्रिटेशन हो जाता है उसका। आए वो शर्माते हुए मेरे पास, चकरा गया मैं देख के ये अंदाज। चाल में उनकी लचक सी थी, मैं अपनी पत्नी की बात कर रहा हूं। चाल में उनकी लचक सी थी, बाल में उनके महक सी थी, सांसों में कसक सी थी, बातों में चहक सी थी, अदाओं में नजाकत सी थी, आंखों में शरारत सी थी, होंठों पे तिरकन सी थी, बदन में सुलगन सी थी, सीने में उछलन सी थी, अदाओं में मचलन सी थी। वो शर्माए वो इतराए, वो शर्माए वो इतराए वो बल खाए, थोड़ा वो डोले और फिर वो बोले, दूंगी आज वो खुशी तुमको, भूलोगे ना तुम कभी उसको। मैंने सोचा ए भगवान तेरी माया निराली है, लगता है आज मेरी किस्मत बदलने वाली है। हाथों में अपने उनका हाथ पकड़ा और कस के उनको बाजू में जकड़ा, लाके उनके होठों को अपने करीब कर दिया एक गिलास से चुम्बन रसीद। आप लोग समझ रहे होंगे क्या था उनका मूड, लेकिन समझा नहीं मैं बेवकूफ। मैंने क्या समझा, मैंने क्या जवाब दिया, ये अचानक तुम्हारा मायके जाने का प्रोग्राम कैसे बन गया। कई सारे को समझ सुना मैं वो भी करा जाता है, सुना दो यार। हाथ में मुन्ने, मेरे बेटी की बात हो रही है पत्नी के साथ, हाथ में मुन्ने का हाथ लेके वो कमरे में मेरे आदम के, देखो मुन्ना कितने अच्छे नंबर लाया है, पूरी क्लास में फर्स्ट आया है। मैंने कहा मत करो आश्चर्य जाने मन, लाइक फादर लाइक सन। तो थोड़ा तुम बोली, इसमें नहीं है तुम्हारा कोई हाथ, इसके तेज दिमाग की है बात, इसमें नहीं है कोई तुम्हारा हाथ, सब इसके तेज दिमाग की है बात। मैंने कहा मुन्ने की मां तूने ठीक फरमाया, मुन्ने ने क्या दिमाग है पाया। फिर मुन्ना बोला, पापा पूछूं एक सवाल आपसे, मेरा तेज दिमाग आया कहां से। सोच ही रहा था इस मासूम सवाल का जवाब, वो कूद पड़ी बीच में जैसे दाल में, नहीं सोच ही रहा था मैं इस मासूम सवाल का उत्तर, वो कूद पड़ी बीच में जैसे दाल में कंकड़। तो बोली, पूरा है मुझे विश्वास ओ मेरे दिल के चिराग, अपने बेटे के लिए बोली, हमारे बेटे के लिए, पूरा है मुझे विश्वास ओ मेरे दिल के चिराग, मुझसे ही मिला है तुमको ये तेज दिमाग। तो मैंने कहा बेटे तुम्हारी माँ का शायद सही है विश्वास, क्योंकि मेरा दिमाग तो अभी भी है मेरे पास। ये आखिरी है, थोड़ा लंबी है, फुदकते हुए मेरे पास आए, अपनी बाहों के हाथ पहनाए और फिर वो बोले, मैंने भी लिखी है एक कविता, क्या अर्ज करूं मेरे देवता। बहुत खूब बहुत खूब, जल्दी सुनाओ मेरे महबूब। मैंने अपनी पत्नी से कहा। किताब उन्होंने खोली, अर्ज किया है वो बोली, क्या बोली वो? तुम बादल तो मैं बिजली, तुम काजल तो मैं पुतली, तुम छत तो मैं छिपकली, तुम मन तो मैं मन चली। तो मैंने कहा क्या बात है, क्या बात है, तुम्हारी कविता तो लाजवाब है। फिर वो बोली धन्यवाद धन्यवाद, अभी और सुनो इसके बाद। बोली तुम भूत तो मैं हवेली, तुम सबूत तो मैं पहेली, तुम पंछी तो मैं डाली, तुम बैगन तो मैं थाली, तुम फूल तो मैं तितली, तुम होठ तो मैं मुरली, तुम रक्त तो मैं लाली, तुम वक्त तो मैं खाली, तुम बोरा तो मैं सुपरी, तुम शोला तो मैं बिजली, तुम बारिश तो मैं गीली, तुम स्वादिष्ट तो मैं रसीली, तुम आग तो मैं तीली, तुम नाक तो मैं जहरीली, तुम शांत तो मैं चुलबुली, तुम हंसमुख तो मैं शर्मीली, तुम साग तो मैं मूली, तुम राग तो मैं सुरीली, तुम साथी तो मैं सहेली, तुम लाठी तो मैं हथेली, तुम जाम तो मैं नशीली, तुम आम तो मैं गुठली, तुम होठ तो मैं मुरली, तुम सोठ तो मैं इमली, तुम बदन तो मैं, तुम बदन तो मैं। मैंने कहा अरे क्या हुआ, रुक क्यों गई, तुम बदन पे क्यों अटक गई? बोली प्रिय तुम भी तो करते हो शायरी, प्लीज पूरी करो कविता हमारी। प्रिय तुम भी तो करते हो शायरी, प्लीज पूरी करो कविता हमारी। मैंने कहा अवश्य करेंगे पूरी तुम्हारी ये चाह, तुक बंदी के हैं हम बादशाह। तो मेरी चंचल सी कविताएं जरा फिर से पढ़ो आखिरी लाइन। वो बोली तुम बदन तो मैं, खुजली मेरे मुंह से निकल गई।
All performances are from surprise performers, talent that we never know existed. And now the next item is also somebody who has never performed on stage during his tenure at IIT, and this time he'll be performing with his wife. But before they come and do whatever they're going to do together, first I'd like to invite Mrs. Arvind Sathi to sing a song, after which Arvind and, I'm sorry I don't know your name, Nina. So after
We only had 2,000 families, and we wanted to teach our kids some Indian music, dance and culture. So we started a group of parents who could learn and teach their kids. And luckily we had Ramesh Mahadevan also with us in that group, and his charge was to put a lot of humor to all our musical. So in the process, all our parents, we learned a lot of things ourselves so that we can teach our kids some music and dance. So here, what I'm going to do, I'm just going to sing one song, which is Arvind's favorite, and then we will do the dance after that.
Thank you.
They learn.
Over the last couple of years, I had this crusade. I said, I'm going to make sure that I work with my battle of bulge in all kind of physical ways. So many of you have seen my hula hoop dancing, which is one of the interesting ways to kind of get rid of your tummy, although it keeps bulging, you know. So as far as I'm concerned, I'm going to keep trying it, and I hope that this dancing gives you a motivation, because this is probably the most beautiful way of doing exercising.
left with only 2 more items for today. So we will be coming to a close very shortly. The next item.
Guru Nanak Dev Ji. We will be performing it in 4 different tals. We'll start with Teen Tal, which is in 16 beats. Then we'll go to Rupak, which is in 7 beats. Then we'll come to Jhap Tal, which is in 10 beats. And then we'll be ending it in Keherba, which is in 8 beats. Please join in.
Barman. Triggered by something. Did it get triggered by diabetes? You can argue. You can argue. I will not win.